Okay, welcome to my shop. On the bench I have the intake to my 440. So what I'm going to be doing is gasket matching the intake system. So basically what a gasket match is, you take the intake gasket and put it on the intake system, and then you grind out the actual iron inside your intake ports to match the perimeter of the gasket. You're going to do the same thing on the heads. This isn't like a port job or a polish job. This is just a gasket match. You go into the port about inch, maybe inch and a half. Just kind of smooth it out. You want to get rid of any lips you have that creates a wall for the air. You want the air to flow directly from the intake manifold into the head. So right now I'm doing the intake. I have 6 of the 8 intake ports die grinded out. I'll bring the camera in closer so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to do the last 2 ports here and just kind of show you how I'm doing it. Now, I'm not an expert. This is the first time I've ever done a gasket match. So what I'm using actually is a bit. So this is from Joe. He's done a few gasket match and he's done a little light head work on some of his stuff. Actually using a Harbor Freight electric die grinder. I did start out using a pneumatic die grinder, but it wasn't taking the material away quick enough, and the air compressor really wasn't able to keep up with it, so I went with the electric. I am happy with the electric. The only downfall is there's no speed variability, so it's either on or it's off. And when it's on, it's really cooking. You just got to be a little careful with it. Now, because this is a stock intake, I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but you could pick these up pretty much anywhere cheap. So worst case scenario, I screw this thing up, I just got to go to a swap meet or Craigslist or something and try to pick one up for a couple bucks. But like I said, it's a pretty easy job. You're just trying to open up these ports a little bit, smooth them out a little bit. So I'll bring the camera in and you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's an up close look at what I'm talking about for the gasket match. These 2 ports I already opened up a bit with the die grinder. Actually, as you can see, these bottom 2 corners, and even that one a little bit, I may be able to take a little more out there. But for the most part, I got pretty much opened up, and it's matching the perimeter of the gasket. These 2 I haven't done yet, and you could still see there's a lot of iron that's still inside the perimeter of the gasket. So the idea is to make these ports match the gasket. Take this gasket, put it on the head, do the same process, remove the material so that it matches the gasket. This way when the intake matches up to the head, you don't have any walls and it's a direct flow of air from the intake into the head. Now, you don't want to go too crazy with taking away material. Like I said, this isn't a port job. If you're going to do a port job, you're really going to want a flow bench and you're going to want to make sure each port is equal. Now again, this isn't like a drag, this isn't going to be a drag engine, this is just kind of, a cruiser, so I'm not overly concerned about taking, too much material away. It's pretty much only going in about 1 inch and we're just gasket matching, so it's not going to change the flow super significantly, but since it's off, it's just going to give that extra performance to ensure that there's no lip for where the intake meets up with the heads. Okay, so I got a little wooden block under my intake just to get it at a workable angle. I'm going to move my pins so that the gasket is affixed firmly against the intake, so I have my template and know where to work around. I'm going to take the electric die grinder and just start working the port, and I'm going to taper in probably about 1 inch and just keep going until I got it all gasket matched. Okay, so the one on the right I just finished up. The one on the left is still as it is originally. So you could see exactly what I'm talking about. So I grinded down that inner wall of the port to make it match the perimeter of the gasket. So I'm going to do the same to this last port. So I'm probably going to go in just a little bit further, get some of that casting flash cleaned up. You could kind of see it's dark. It's just a little rougher. So I guess you'd consider that a little bit of a polish, but like I said, I'm just going in not too deep, so maybe like an inch, inch and a half. So this is pretty much the process I'm using. I'm going to do the same with the heads. Okay, so here we have the finished product. All ports now have been opened up, and I went as deep as I felt comfortable, so I think we should be good. And the next step now will be to take it to Joe's house for sandblast and priming it in preparation for putting it back on the engine, and it'll be its final color, which is the Mopar turquoise blue.